the Blade Master, aka Ator II, aka Day the Sword Master, aka Ator the Return of the Blade Master, aka Cave Dwellers, is a 1984 action fantasy film from famous exploitation director Joe D'Amato, aka Donna Aubert, aka Stephen Benson, aka John Bird, aka, a whole slew of other pseudonyms. A voiceover explains who Ator is, instead of just introducing him and letting the audience figure it out. A cave filled with Geico caveman rejects are having lunch. A gang of other cavemen come in, and it's all-out war. Okay, war might be overselling it. Mild caveman LARPing? We interrupt this overlong caveman battle to show you a castle we wish we could film in. Mila, who's wearing a hubcap, comes to see her father. He shows her his latest discovery.
What is it?
It is everything and nothing.
So it's Transformers 2? He tells her she needs to go and get Ator, the only person capable of keeping it out of the hands of evil. Who is Ator? Here's a 3-hour retelling of the first movie. Ator's village was killed, he's trained by this guy, he gets his chest oiled, cuts this guy's head off, fights with the shadow of the gaffer, kills Dakar, and slays the giant spider god puppet. The Ator movies are 90% shots of Miles O'Keefe's crotch region. In the middle of training, Ator stops for jazz hands. Another shot of the castle. Mila's still talking to her father, and some bad guys attack. What are they doing? He gives Mila the whatever thing and directions to find Ator. The evil Zor captures Acronis. Does this swan helmet strike fear into your heart? Just a little fear? These guys think that serious acting equals constant pausing.
And don't you try to fool me.
You may rest assured that in order to thwart your evil designs, I will draw upon all my powers.
Mila escapes and Zor sends his men after her. She gets ambushed and nearly escapes unharmed until she stops and lets one of them shoot her with an arrow. I guess they haven't invented underpants yet. Zor is trying to get Acronis to tell him where his daughter went.
Of course, I could easily use torture to make you tell me.
Torture!
Ator's forming a new sword with his friend Thong. It's not big enough. Mila finds Ator and passes out. Okay, Thong, you suffocate her with those leaves. That'll distract her enough so I can pull the arrow out. Zor figures out that Mila went to see Ator. The next day, Mila's all better. Mila wants to go, but Ator's too busy writing in his diary. Plus, Thong just made this wicked blueberry kale smoothie. To prove she's the daughter of Acronis, Ator locks her in a jail cell and she has to figure her way out. Why is he copying a feel of the statue? Mila angrily gathers up some stuff and somehow makes gunpowder. Ooh, ah. Since Mila proved herself, they go somewhere? Zor introduces Acronis to Sandur, who's the anti-Ator. He practices something called rough magic. Zor wants Sandur to neutralize the limited Ator.
Sandur, there is someone I want neutralized, eliminated.
Sandur uses his power, the ability to show the intro to Doctor Who at will. Ator and company get lost in the fog. Mila gets separated from Ator and Thong. Ah well, I don't see where she went. I guess we'll just have to leave her behind. Ator and Thong head into a cave.
Did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear that. That's it, I'm going off on my own adventures. When your low-budget movie needs to go even lower, invisible enemies. Okay guys, just flail around a lot, it looks great. They finally figure out a way to see the bad guys. Ah, being covered in a cape, our one weakness. Couldn't they just throw them off? They're capes, not nets. Now that the bad guys are dead, why don't you go get your capes back? What if there's more of them? You think the effects budget could handle an army of invisible soldiers. Mila wanders into the cave and gets attacked by the cavemen from an hour ago. The cavemen take Mila to sacrifice her to their god. Thankfully, Ator shows up just in time to rescue her. He's fabulous! Ator's light show scares off the cavemen, and he rescues Mila. Thong, now is not the time to carve dirty limericks into the wall. Thong locates the exit, and he bangs on the wall until Ator finds him. Ator and company are traveling the forest when they're ambushed by the knights who say ni. Is this camera angle some sort of contractual obligation? I feel like they borrowed these guys from a neighboring production. Zor's courtship of Acronis continues.
You're wonderful.
Ator's talking to Mila while Thong goes fishing.
He was Lord of the Northern Territory.
That night, afternoon, they rest. Boy, it sure would be great if we had capes or something to lie on instead of the ground. Thong finds some girls escaping a local village that's looking for humans to sacrifice.
What do you want?
You know, just because you play cricket noises doesn't automatically make it a night scene. Ator stops the village before they surrender the people to be sacrificed. This wine, it's drugged. Oh no, was this shot necessary? This is God. Stop pointing the camera at Ator's crotch. It seems the whole thing was a trap to get Ator and hand him over to Kung. The Kung turn on them and slaughter the village. Who is this? Certainly isn't Mila, unless someone gave her a haircut and a dye job while she was tied up. Zor finally has Ator. Do you want Ator, or will you take what's in the box?
You have defeated my warriors, but all your science has proved helpless.
All his science? Since when is this science? He leaves them to be sacrificed to the serpent god. They start throwing maidens into the pit. Snakes. Why'd it have to be snakes? Geez, the serpent god's gonna be full of maidens by the time he gets to Ator. Why doesn't he just knock over the styrofoam pillars? Thong frees Ator, but the evil guy manages to throw Mila into the pit. Ator kills the Kung and jumps in to stop the serpent god. Okay, all this build-up, what's it look like? Bela Lugosi was more believable wrestling with a giant rubber octopus. He kills the serpent god and they escape. They get to Acronis' castle, and Ator tells Mila and Thong to go in the secret entrance, while he takes another way in. And it sure is a good thing I stashed this hang glider here.
Sir, this is a restricted flight zone. I'm gonna have to ask you to land that thing elsewhere.
Ator goes on a bombing run, and eventually lands on the castle. None of these guys had arrows? For supposedly one of the greatest fighters, Thong's sword skills are a little fruity. Ator rushes the castle and finds Acronis. Zor tricks Ator into dropping a sword.
I always knew you were a fool.
Yeah, that was pretty stupid of you. Ator disarms Zor and almost kills him when Acronis butts in.
No, Ator, you can't. Zor is disarmed. If you kill him now, you'll be guilty of murder.
Who would have known? Of course, Zor isn't above playing dirty, and tries to kill him, but Thong somehow stabs him from like 30 feet away. Acronis gives Ator the nucleus, and he tells Mila he has to go fight evil elsewhere. She means a lot to him, but he can't even be bothered to get her name right.
Goodbye, Mila.
Ator tells Thong to stay with Mila and Acronis. Was it a good idea to give such a powerful device to a giant muscle head? I guess not. In 1982, director Joe D'Amato made Ator the Invincible to capitalize on the success of Conan the Barbarian. He did the same with the sequel in 1984 to capitalize on Conan the Destroyer. The movie goes by several names, but is most famously known as Cave Dwellers, which was the international version that was riffed by Mystery Science Theater 3000. Miles O'Keefe, who played Ator, thought it was hilarious. Nice to know he has a sense of humor, unlike Jodon Baker. The movie was made as quickly and cheaply as possible, as was many Italian knockoffs. Although even with the tiny budget and rushed schedule, D'Amato's films still manage to be entertaining. When he's on, he cranks out movies like Bio Omega, which is a damn good movie. The Ator series continued in 1987 with Iron Warrior. Since there was no Conan movie to borrow from, they instead took elements from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Excalibur, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and oddly enough, Superman. D'Amato didn't direct Iron Warrior, and he didn't like the way that it was handled, so he returned to the series to direct the fourth and final Ator, Quest for the Mighty Sword. Although this time it wasn't Miles O'Keefe as Ator, it was Eric Allen Kramer as the son of Ator. He's probably best known for playing Little John in Robin Hood Men in Tights, and most recently the father in Good Luck Charlie. Good old sword and sorcery films. They never disappoint. So they don't have the latest and greatest effects, or even an effects budget at all. But who cares? It's people with hubcaps as armor, fighting with rubber swords, and killing giant puppets. I'll take a tiny budget film like Ator over a mega budget bomb like eragon any day.
And if you had been a better student, Zor, you could be flying too.